Malolele, really greatly appreciated to be able to be connected with someone who has a business on the ground in Vavau. Ladies and gentlemen, we're joined right now by Kate Walker, who is the co-owner of the Boatyard in Vava'u, but currently in New Zealand. Kate, Malolele, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I'm happy to be able to contact with you.
Look, we're really pleased to hear from you too. And for our Tongan diaspora globally, it's been some very arduous hours waiting for news from the kingdom. I understand that you've been in communication with your business partners and team on the ground in Vava'u. Could you let us know a little bit of some of the updates on how Vava'u has fared during this disaster?
Yes, certainly. We're very lucky that one of our team members on the ground, a Canadian team member called Tom, he's got a small satellite device called a Garmin InReach, which is basically a text device for satellite communication when you're sailing. So we're lucky that he has one on his yacht. So we've been able to be in direct contact with Vava'u since I think 12 hours after the eruption hit. We've had it confirmed now several times from them that everybody and everything in Vava'u is fine. There's VHF radios working within Vava'u. So every morning there's a VHF network chat and everybody updates with news. And so everyone's in contact with everyone. And this morning or yesterday afternoon, the police were out and have been around checking on everybody as well. So it's been confirmed by our team there that everyone is fine in Vava'u, including the outer island communities. In terms of what they experienced from the eruption, it looks like they lost communications almost instantly on eruption. We saw one Facebook post pop up from a friend of ours sort of at the time of the eruption, and then nothing straight away. So they haven't seen anything of what's gone on. I know we all had that hour's worth of footage that was being shared from Nuku'alofa, but Vava'u haven't seen any of it. So we're trying to update them, but sort of via text. It's quite a slow process. So they had a small amount of ashfall, but not too much has been reported so far. I think they're quite keen for a bit of rain to wash everything down. And in terms of the waves inside Neafu Harbour and around in Vaipua, it was sort of normal tidal surges, 2-foot tidal surges. So they haven't really seen any damage inside the harbour. We don't know what the outer islands experienced in terms of the waves, but again, no severe damage is being reported and no injuries being reported. The main concerns that we're hearing about at the moment are obviously wanting to get communications up, and they're also wondering sort of what's happened to the Otoanga for the food supplies. We haven't been able to update them with that because we haven't heard ourselves. So that's one of their main concerns. And then also we're hearing from some of our Tongan friends and from our friends in Vava'u as well that they're quite keen to get to know when the banking might be up and running. Obviously, a lot of people rely on remittances. So with Western Union being without contact and the banks being without contact, then they're worried about that as well. So those are sort of the main concerns coming out of Vava'u. I don't know how much contact they've had so far with Nuku'alofa. We have today finally been able to put our team in touch with the New Zealand High Commission team in Nuku'alofa by satellite. So they now have a direct link between the two, but we don't know. I don't know how much communication there's been sort of between the police. They think there's some communication between the airports, but we're not sure to what extent. But there's definitely a lack of information in Vava'u, which is understandable.
And do you know if the radio stations in Vava'u are up and running at all? Is there any sort of, I guess, at least locally in Vava'u, any communication to the Tongan community there just through local media?
Not that we've heard of. I know they were asking for the AM frequency for Radio Tonga, which we've given them, but I don't know whether it is broadcasting and reaching Vava'u. We've been sort of having lots of communications from Tongans and expat families overseas. So as much as we can, we've been able to sort of everyone who's contacted us, we're able to sort of reassure that we can't get in touch directly with people there, but we've been sort of informed that everyone's fine, and that's sort of as much as we've been able to tell people. and yeah, through the Facebook, through the Facebook groups, which is still a very small reach that we have, and obviously we're not able to give any updates in Tongan. So we're trying both ways to get our team on the ground, because obviously we have Tongans in our team as well, so trying to get them to share information, and then trying to share all the information we get as well.
Now, leading up to the eruption, we know that this was impacting Tonga Tapu, at least, was the acid rain and some of the other chemicals in the air. Did that also spread north to Vava'u in terms of water tanks and affected agriculture and crops and that kind of thing?
I think in the last, from what we've heard in the few days leading up to the eruption, some of the outer island resorts started sort of turning off their water tanks, their pumps, and sealing up their water tanks. So certainly wasn't anything that we were hearing about on a normal day-to-day basis, that there was ash falling or that there was any significant problem with crops like we're starting to see in the imagery out of Ha'apai and Nuku'alofa. So we don't think it's been a significant problem there, but that's just, and it is certainly nothing that we've heard so far that they've had a problem with ash. At the moment, it's a bit of a nuisance because it's making everything a bit dusty, but we're not hearing of any significant problems.
In terms of, you mentioned the Otomotuanga Ofa vessel and so forth, in terms of clean drinking water getting to Vava'u and what supplies are already in Vava'u. Do you have any estimate of how long could Vava'u survive on its own with zero communication, with no ships or flights coming in from outside of Vava'u? Roughly a week or two or longer?
We were in Vava'u when there were supply disruptions before from a cyclone, and we were also in Vava'u when the fiber optic cable was cut a few years ago. It's certainly challenging, but I think, and I know people are starting to stockpile some food because they're worried about food supplies. I'd say, you know, a week and things are going to start to get a bit skinny in the shops. It all depends on especially at the time with COVID-19 restrictions, it all depends on how reliable the supply chain's been in the lead up to this. I know, for example, recently there was a sort of no cheese for 3 months. You know, there's definitely been patchy supply, but it depends on when the last ferry was in, when the last Matson's vessel was in, because they can restock directly from New Zealand via the Matson's boats, and a lot of the Chinese shops do that. So it all depends on that, but I'd say a week, maybe two, and they're going to start to get worried about food. Water supplies, there's a lot of groundwater reserves in Vava'u because we're quite high, so there's a lot of water bores around the place, so that's good. Tonga water there's reticulation to a lot of the houses, and those are served by bores. Some of the more isolated houses on the outer islands are water tanks, and it is cyclone season, so there has been rain, so you know, we hope that the tanks are full and that they've been able to protect them. But so that's all. That's, I guess, our hope and our guesstimations about what's going on in terms of the water and the food.
Finally, in terms of the economic impacts on businesses such as your own business, obviously with COVID-19 border closures for so long, that's you know, significantly devastated the tourism industry for Tonga. Now we have a natural disaster. It is also cyclone season as well. How are you faring as a business owner from Vava'u?
We've been incredibly fortunate in that the borders closed while a lot of our customers had their boats out of the water. So we've been very fortunate in that we've been able to retain most of our staff on at least a part-time basis throughout this. The main problem we get is that with the cuts now in the internet, then we lose our ability to invoice and process payments. So we lose our ability to sort of pay wages. And that's sort of the main, from our business point of view, that's the main knock-on effect then, is the impact this has on the families that our team support. So last time we had internet disruptions, we were able to sort of have quite sort of standing on top of mountains with our credit card machine, hooking into the satellite to process credit cards. So we can go to some interesting lengths to keep the business functioning, and that's really the main thing we need to function for, is to keep the salaries coming.
That's fantastic. Look, we're wishing you all the best for the business and for the people of Vavau. It's reassuring to hear this update from you. It seems from what we're gathering, Vavau has not been as badly impacted, certainly as what we're seeing for Ha'apai and Tongatapu. Is there anything additional you'd like to add to any of the Tongan diaspora or the Vavau people who live outside of Vavau over here in Australia, New Zealand, America, and around the globe?
Just to reiterate really that everybody there's okay. We're hoping to get news of the Otoanga offer soon, but everybody there's okay. They're seeming pretty relaxed at the moment. I think because they don't have an idea of the scale of what's happened. It's not. I think it's a bit less terrifying for them than it is for us. Maybe sort of seeing what's happened. But hopefully Digicel will have backup internet running soon, and we can start to hear from everybody soon. But we try our best to keep updating as and when we get more information.
That's awesome. Look, thank you, Kate, so much for your time and wishing you all the best. Malo Aupito.
You're malo.